Hello, so today we're talking about farm safety. Safety is a massive issue in the agricultural industry. Lots of people are injured and poisoned and have issues all of the time. And we've had a pretty bad track record throughout the industry over the last 100 years or so, but we're getting better and better and better. Today's little focus is going to be on sprays and chemicals that we use regularly on farms. So that's going to be our focus. We'll look at some other stuff at a later time. The first thing that we look at are pesticides. So a pesticide is something that kills a pest, and we've got a whole range of different terms that we use. So the term side just means to kill or a killer in Latin. So a herbicide kills plants, insecticides kill insects, and fungicides kill fungi. So we've got some diagrams here, some pictures. We've got a pretty common thistle. It's a Scotch thistle or a black thistle. That can be a pretty big issue in some of our pasture zones. Insecticides kill insects. So I've put up a diagram here. This is a Heliothus grub. So that's actually a grub that has a moth as its adult part of its life cycle. Then below it we have the corn cob, and we can see a little bit of fungi damage up the end of the cob of corn. That can actually sometimes be introduced from the grub above it. That's one of the issues that they have there. So herbicides, they're the ones that kill plants, and they can be broken down into several different groups. They can be pre-emergent or post-emergent. Now, what we're talking about with pre-emergent, we're talking about before the crop has come out of the ground. Post-emergent simply means that once the crop has come up and out of the ground and is growing actively. So there's different types of chemicals. There's a whole range of different chemicals that are used. We break them down into selective, which means they only kill the target plants, or non-selective, which means that they kill all plants. Now, selective, we've got some examples here. So we've got 2,4-D is an example of a selective, and we use that in cereal crops to kill broadleaf weeds, so like capeweed, mallow, all stuff like that, thistles. And then we have a non-selective in Roundup. So Roundup kills all plants, or most plants, when it touches them, okay? We have a couple of different, another types of herbicides. So we have residual herbicides, so it means that you might spray them on the ground in this pre-emergent. So we spray them on the ground, and then as plants germinate, they take up the herbicide and they die. Okay? And then we have just contact. So Roundup and 2,4-D are examples of contact herbicides. So insecticides, they're chemicals that kill insects. There are contact insecticides, and they require the droplets from the sprays. So picture like your hairspray. Those little spray droplets have to actually touch or be ingested, which means eaten, by the insect. Okay, so they only hang around for a very short period of time. And then we have a different sort of insecticide called systemic insecticides. So systemic insecticides work by the plant actually absorbing the chemical, and then when the insect or the grub eats the plant, it takes up some of the chemical and then it dies. So we're using the plant as a delivery system. So those systemic insecticides, it might be planted with the seed of the plant. So we use that in cotton, a product called Temic. So we plant the seed with this Temic, and the Temic is taken up by the cotton plant. And then for the first few weeks, anything that eats the cotton plant dies. It's a really pretty handy sort of chemical to have. Okay, what we've got here is this is a label of a herbicide. Okay, so we've got Roundup. So it quite clearly tells us what our herbicide does. Rightio? So it's a herbicide. Now, it tells us the active constituent, which is glyphosate. So we've got an active constituent. We've got some safety precautions, so keep out of reach of children. We've got a description here that tells us that it's a non-selective control of annual and perennial weeds. Okay, so it's non-selective. What else? We've got group M. So what this means is that it's a type of chemical that has moderate risk of resistance. So resistance just where insects or plants might build up the ability to not be affected by the herbicide or the pesticide. Okay, so with these labels, it's really, really important to read them, to make sure that you're applying them in the right manner and that you're taking all the correct safety precautions. Behind this label, there's often a little booklet, and that booklet will show you all the different rates, so how much chemical per how many litres of water that you must apply it at, all the target species, the safety considerations, if there's any withholding periods. So a withholding period is just the time that you have to wait before you can sell the product that's been sprayed. Okay, so it has a huge amount of information there. It's really, really important to read. You don't want to be selling products that have been contaminated or that haven't had their withholding periods. You also want to make sure that you've got all the right PPE, which is personal protective equipment. So gloves, overalls, goggles, respirator, all that kind of stuff. Rightio.